Why is it that most leaders, they maybe go to the command and control? Is that a defense mechanism? What's behind that?
I mean, if we're honest, our culture rewards that, right? It's dog eat dog. You got to climb that ladder. How do you climb that ladder? Well, you got to step on someone to get up there. Could you imagine going into work? The minute you pull up to work, first off, you know you're going to work hard, but you're working around people that look at you as somebody that has something good to offer and that what you're doing really matters. How could we do that, like as a culture in all these different areas?
Well, joining me on The Curious CEO today is someone who has helped me over the past 10 years grow as a leader, husband, and father. Dr. Lance All is a licensed marriage and family therapist and founder of the Restoration Therapy Center of San Diego. He holds a Master of Divinity and Doctorate in Marriage and Family Therapy from Fuller Theological Seminary, where he began his career as an ordained pastor, which continues to shape his work today. Lance helps leaders, individuals, and couples break free from patterns of anxiety, conflict, and disconnection using an experiential relational approach focused on lasting change. He also hosts the RT Dialogue podcast. Lance, welcome to The Curious CEO.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. This is fun. I've been excited about this because indirectly, I've probably been talking about you for a while. On the last podcast,
Okay.
I was sharing about the above the line and below the line process, which you and I have talked about a lot. But, for those of you who haven't heard that, above the line is where all the good stuff is, where we play to our strengths, where we're building a great business, we're living a great life. It's optimal.
Yes.
And then the opposite of that is below the line, which is not so great. It doesn't feel great. You can be despondent. It's where all the bad habits are. And you and I have talked a lot about this over the years, and you've certainly helped me move from below the line to above the line. But you are working with people who we're serving as leaders. You've got teenagers, you've got couples, you have individuals, you have leaders. When somebody comes in to work with you, how do you know where they are in the process of whether they're living a bit above the line or maybe you're below the line? Like, what are some of the subtle or not so subtle signs?
Yeah, I think we have some interesting giveaways for people that we run into. I think one of the big things I recognize is how you talk about others and how you deal with your failings in life, right? One thing that I recognize with some people is they'll say, they'll be high on the blame where all my misery is because of somebody else. That's kind of like one of the classic things. Or they live in this place of all my misery is my fault. And it's almost this like Eeyore type existence, right? Where they got nothing inside of them. So like high on the blame or high on the shame where they beat themselves up for their struggles. The other thing I notice with people is they'll run into this place of high level control. We control in all different ways, right? We can control, the room, we can control the numbers, we can control the structure. There's lots of different ways that people manipulate and control things, right? So I pay attention to like, how is this person interacting around, when things go sideways, right? And what happens with them? How do they interact? If they don't control, they'll run into escape or chaos, right? It's where sex, drugs, and rock and roll come in. Where anything I can do to escape, or they're stuck on their cell phones or what have you.
Yeah. So it sounds like you got someone who's like, it's their fault. It's all about them. And you have this victim, or you have this person who's taken too much ownership for, well, it's all me. And this is always what I do. And this is the loser, the ER factor.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting about that, is I've been fortunate enough to run a pretty big organization with a lot of folks and, coming in there as the CEO and the head guy, sometimes I realize maybe I'm the biggest lunatic running around the asylum right now. But I think what's helped me is, well, first of all, I don't think it was really my character to think that, hey, I'm all that in a bag of chips, that I have it all together. Why is it that most leaders, they maybe go to the command and control and because I said so, like, why is that a defense mechanism? What's behind that?
Well, I mean, if we're honest, our culture rewards that, right? It's dog eat dog. We got to fight. We got to push. We got to win, put the other person down. Like that's a lot of our culture that we live in, is that you got to climb that ladder. How do you climb that ladder? Well, you got to step on someone to get up there. So I think a lot of our culture is this kind of competitive, and I don't have anything wrong with competition. I just think it's how we compete with one another. And are we actually building up to something better where we're developing, this sense of like camaraderie, or are we just pushing more of this us versus them mentality? So I think that's part of where people get into a lot of the struggle, is that part of culture. Does that happen in Ireland at all? Or?
Oh, yes. But generally you go for a pint afterwards, and that's where all the therapy really happens.
There you go.
Who's a leader that you admire? Because sometimes you've got to be a lamb and sometimes you've got to be a lion, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't be a pushover either. It can't be, it's not all kumbaya and
Oh, come on. Yeah.
everything's okay. But is there any leaders that you've seen who've kind of been a good complement of, hey, they're strong, they're determined, they want to win, they want to grow the organization, they want to achieve, which is nothing wrong with,
right.
but they kind of do it in a way that honors, we're not robots, we're humans and we got problems. Who have you seen, or maybe even from history or?
Yeah. Oh man, so many. I think like one of the people that has like been huge change in my life outside of my like family would be Terry Hargrave. He created this therapy model that I use. And the one thing I love about Terry is the way he embraces people, right? He can look at you and right in the eyes and he can see right through to your heart, right? And I think one thing that I love about the best leaders is they see what's inside of the people that are around them and they call out the greatness. They're able to work within that, and they'll see, hey, you're lacking here. So there's a high regard to like going to do excelling, right? But there's this ability to be met where you are as well. And I think that's one of the things that Terry really did with me and his wife, actually. I remember being with her. I had some struggles I was dealing with. She just challenged me. She said, this therapy stuff that you do with all these other people, you ever think about trying it at home? Which is funny. The therapist, I guess this happens in other cultures.
Of course.
Like, you ever practice what you preach, Lance?
Yeah.
Man, I started practicing it and her ability to meet me where I was and to call me to greatness changed me.
And it gives you I'm sure it gives you a lot of because you run your own company. You've got a lot of people working for you.
Man.
I always found it gave me a lot more grace for some folks, because we used to have 200 and something odd people working at the company, and people ask how many people you got that working there, and I'm like, probably 420. Yeah. Because all of us have a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde depending on the day and what's going on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I like that approach of, as I said, coming in, you have a job to do, you do have numbers to get, but you're also interested in the individuals and bringing them along the journey too. How can leaders prepare? Like one of the things when I was in a good spot was I would prepare for the day.
Yeah.
I kind of got myself in a good spot where I'm like, okay, get up in the morning, either just get a little cup of coffee, a bit of thinking time, do a bit of journaling, so that I didn't arrive at the office where I'm up to here.
Yeah.
And someone arrives in and they're up to here and their hair's on fire. And I'm you got this,
I'm familiar with that remark.
How can... that's some examples for me. What other ways can we as leaders prepare for the day, or just to get ourselves kind of like ready and not go in, with our own hair on fire, our own issues pumping out of our ears,
Yeah. I think some of the big things that I lean into personally and with others is to recognize getting yourself right, I think we carry so much burden inside of us, right? And sometimes that burden's way too much. But, getting yourself right. And what are those things that get you right, Is it, reading a good book? Is it going, for me, surfing? What are those things that get you, like when you step in the door, right, where you're already flowing, right? Yeah. And that to me is that thing that makes a big difference. Yeah. Is like, what do I need to do? What's that affirmation? What's that truth going in the room?
Yeah, yeah. Because I think it's like, parenting and leadership is very similar, right? It's like, one thing I always say to people who report, I was saying, look, your job is to make sure you never say, because I said so. Okay?
Yes.
It's like, with the kids, like, get in the damn car. Like,
come on.
Because I said so. It's like, okay, maybe there's a time for that. Maybe there's a situation for that when there's, house on fire and we got to get out of there. But I think part of it is you have this kind of collision of energy that is below the line energy, right?
Yeah.
So let's say I come into the office now and I'm good. I've gone for my surf. I've got myself in a good spot for the day. But now I come into the office and have a meeting and I have a blamer.
Oh, come on.
And I have a shamer.
Yeah.
And I have all the other in-betweeners. From all that, here's what I'm saying is that I'm thinking is that as a leader, I really have to set the agenda and I pay attention.
Yeah.
So if I see people are like, I can see when people are acting out. I can see when people are doing well. I can see when people are struggling. I can see when people are hiding out. But at the end of the day, it comes back to the objectives. Like, these are the objectives. Here's the outcomes we're looking for the customer. Here's what we're looking for the company. And then here's how we're going to care for each other. So in practical terms, if I'm going into that meeting, I'm going in with a very specific agenda and outcomes that I'm looking at. I'm creating the environment to say, listen, I've noticed that maybe not is there, everything's great here with the team.
Right.
You know, maybe not everything's going great with the customer.
Yeah.
But it's okay. We want to create a space for you to be able to get that out and articulate it. So step number one is we're going to actually talk about that. Like what's not going well right now? What's frustrating? Where are you feeling stuck?
There, right?
We don't need to live there, but we need to get it out.
Call it out.
Exactly.
I feel not good enough. These numbers that you just put up on the board is my team, and we're failing right now.
Right. So I feel like I'm failing.
Right?
Great. So and it might feel that way, but might not be true, right?
Yeah. And you as a leader can even call that out too.
That's right.
I imagine you guys feel like a failure.
Yeah, it can go both ways. Yeah. I think the second thing is to give them, as I give them the outlet, but now ask for solutions. But if I can normally I would find if I gave people the agenda before they got there, you know, the people who were more introspective came with better answers. You know, I was the type of person who's synergistic, like, let's just go with a flip chart and let's go. But I also found that when I didn't give the information out first or the agenda of what we were hoping to accomplish, I actually unintentionally dismissed a bunch of people from the meeting who would have said, I would have liked a few days to think about this.
Yeah.
And then I think the third step is, from what I'm hearing you say, is like, get them to take, what do we agree upon that would be good action for us to take? Yeah. So we're moving them from, as you'd say, from the pain cycle to at least a peace and momentum cycle, from below the line to above the line.
Yeah.
You know, in addition to that, like, how can we keep it going? Like, you know, for me, is it about, okay, now I want to find people doing things right. We used to do it at our all hands meeting where we'd have people give a shout out to anybody who they thought was doing a great job, or they saw them in a situation where nobody else saw them.
Yeah.
And we'd have people kind of calling out, I saw Charlie from IT, you know, my computer crapped out at 3:00 and he came down and fixed it and stayed there till after hours. And I found that was a great way of shifting the momentum from we're losing, nobody helps me, the ego, to, hey, we're all going to be doing that for each other now, and getting a call out. And who doesn't want to get called out?
Yeah. Like how,
in a positive way.
Yeah. Reinforcing the truth of people, right? Like, you're a good hard worker. You really care. Like, I think we kind of put that down in society as like, that's just, you know, these feel good words or whatever comes to your mind. But to reinforce truth, to say, I saw you. Like, you worked really hard on that project, and I'm sorry we're not using it. But I saw in you is that you are a very hard worker.
You gave it all.
Oh,
yeah.
Like, I feel still a little frustrated, but man, I feel seen still.
Totally.
So being able to reinforce truth in your people, I think makes a huge difference. And knowing those truths, right? You tell a story of like a mentor, right? That helped this woman out, right? You know, and that brought out this gentleness inside of her, right? From the wicked witch to a gentle spirit, right?
Yeah.
And we all have those mentors in our lives. We can be that for other people as CEOs, right?
Totally. And you know, I think it's not a game of perfection, right? And I think that's what you're saying. It's like, for me, when I'm aware of that's what I'm looking for in the outcomes, and I'm going, see ya, well done. Hey, that wasn't good, bad, or indifferent. If it's all positive, it's probably not true. If it's all negative, it's probably not true. But somewhere in between, it's probably the same. Is the truth. Yeah. But also to encourage them to say, hey, don't wait for me to be in the meeting to encourage your colleague. Don't wait for me to be in the meeting to give a shout out for somebody. Like, feel free to do it, and let's just spread around the place. Yeah. Yeah. At least people can come into work in their pain cycle and leave feeling like they accomplished something, and it'll change everything at home.
Could you imagine that? Yeah. Could you imagine going into work and like the minute you pull up to work, first off, you know, you're going to work hard, but you're working around people that look at you as somebody that has something good to offer, and that what you're doing really matters. How could we do that? Like, as a culture and all these different areas, I think if we were able to do that, man, the mental health in society, whew.
Totally. I like it. Let's do that.
I'll do it.
Well, I think this is where, you know, I think in today with the speed of business and just the speed of life, you know, like, you know, my father was a painter, right? And he ran a painting company. Yeah. And people used to have to serve an apprenticeship. And it took 6 years. Yeah. Right? And inside of that 6 years when you were serving your apprenticeship, you had all the other guys on the job who were really mentoring you.
Yeah.
And so when I say there's an absence of apprenticeship
Yes.
and mentorship, you've got people coming in thinking, hey, I know it all. I looked it up on AI this morning and
Right.
it told me exactly
Of
what I
course.
need to do. And then you have folks who are like, well, I'm too busy to sit down and meet with you.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally have found taking that time to get to know somebody, ask questions. Hey, what are you excited about? What do you like to do? Or even create an environment where it's like, you know, for me, I think it was kind of fun at times when I wouldn't be invited to a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, well, do you want me to be at the meeting? And they say, no. I'm like, why? Because you won't do well. Like, it's not for you. You'll make it more complicated. I'm like, well, you're very comfortable.
Okay.
Very true. But ways of, what are some good questions to ask people, like, that are just so you can dig in a little bit them, like, what's an example of some good questions just to find out what's going on?
Like if somebody's struggling.
Yeah. Like you can tell somebody's struggling, but like maybe they're the person who's kind of like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
Or you got the person who's like, you're going to find me out at some point. Like,
right.
Is there different approaches to those different type of?
Oh yeah. I mean, we get resistance, I think that's a little bit more of a dance that you get caught into versus, something that's a little bit more open, I think, a lot of times we do run into resistance. And I think trying to own our part in that moment, right? If you're turned like this with me and I'm seeing that happening in the room, then I can say, well, help me to understand what's going on inside of you right now. Because this is what I'm experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
When you talked about this number, I noticed that you were getting really upset. Like your voice got elevated.
Mm-hmm.
You had this weird look on your face. And maybe it's something I'm eating, like own it for a minute, but help me to figure out what's going on with you right now. Like,
as opposed to, you're doing this, it's like, here's how I'm experiencing you in this situation. Are you aware of that?
yeah.
Yeah. What's behind it?
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of lean into the tells, as they say in the therapy world, which works some of the time.
Yeah. What do you think is a reasonable amount of time to be? Because people are like, I did it once and, they didn't. Like, what do you think? How long does it take to kind of create an environment where people are willing to go fess up or tell you stuff, or, the process of you going, hey, listen, like, we need to work on this. Because, one of the things I remember you saying to me one day, clarity is kindness.
Yeah. 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 I mean, to change I can tell you what we know from the literature with regards to like family systems. Family systems generally, when you're going through a difficult thing in a family, like a divorce or a loss, the typical rule we look at is around 7 years. In that 7-year process, there's going to be, some nice days. It's not like it's not always a grind, but to lean into that 7-year rule. In fact, I'd say, there's this old rule. They say that we tend to overestimate what we can do in a year, and we underestimate what we can do in 10. So I always like to encourage people, well, what's your 10-year, when you look 10 years down the road, why don't you lean into that a little bit more about what people would say at your company, and what are things that you can do today that would start bringing that forth?
Now, my initial reaction to that is maybe with my wife, my kids, the long-termers in my life. Even 7 years feels like, wow, that's a long time for change to take place.
Yeah.
Right? Let's say it's 90 days.
Okay.
In an office, right? You got somebody come in, they're great on the interview. You're like, I'm so excited to have this
person.
Yes.
Okay. How, I thought you were talking about a whole organization.
No.
Okay.
Sorry. I'd say just individual by individual.
Yeah.
7 years for an organization, I could handle that. Like, I could see that.
For an organization, I would lean into 7 years because that's a lot of dynamics.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With a person, I think technically we give people about 2 months generally is what I've noticed. Mm-hmm. It's a cruel world we live in, but that's what people are actually given is about 2 months to really get their life straight.
Yeah.
That's what I've seen.
My thing was always 90 days. Like,
you're nice.
Well, I think I always looked at like the first month, you're really getting to know a stranger, right? Yeah. And even that, like, Jerry Seinfeld used to say when people go on dating, like the two representatives show up, but it's neither of them are the real person.
Yeah.
So if somebody comes in for the job interview and everything's awesome, they can't wait to be here, and they tell you, what do you love?
What's the deal with?
I know. Exactly. Or they're like, hey, I love to be free to do my thing, and I hate, micromanagement. And then you get them in and you realize they don't mind doing micromanagement to other people,
Yeah.
But, my thing was 90 days, like the first month to kind of get to know, the second month to assess and point out things and pay attention. And at the same time I always felt the onus of responsibility was not just like, we hired this person. Our job is to create clarity, create the environment. Were we clear enough? Did we tell them how we operate, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable? Yeah. And then the last month was like on them to turn it around. It's a tricky thing when you're also trying to honor the person, like not just the result. Yeah. It's almost, and I've often found that people, they knew that they were failing anyway, or that they weren't doing well, or it wasn't a good fit. And they're almost relieved when you tell them, listen, and again, back to your being honest and being clear. Come on. Yeah. But it does require a lot of intention.
Yeah. It does. We have to be working with one another. This clarity, kindness is such a key piece, right? That if I don't know how I'm actually doing with you, then I'm guessing all the time. But if we can be mindful with one another, not where it's like, my dad used to say, one shit kills 1,000 attaboys.
Yeah, so true.
He worked at NASA, so,
wow. You don't want any shits at NASA, do you? Bad things happen.
No. Yeah. But that saying of one shit, right? It kills 1,000 attaboys. That's hard to live in, right? So finding a way of like, be able to, cheer someone on and also be able to give them like some corrective motions on how to get better.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the rubber meets the road too. When you tell somebody, listen, it's like your kids, like, if you tell me, my parents used to say, if you tell us the truth, you won't get in trouble. Okay. But if you tell us a lie, you're going to be in trouble. Mm-hmm. And they were sorry they said that to me because I always told them the truth. And they're like, no. Don't tell me too much. And then and then I was thinking about doing this. Why is conflict resolution and why is it that it's so hard and why is it so present? And it's not always loud. Yeah. It's like, it can be very passive aggressive and, is there a better word than conflict?
It's a good word. I think there's a lot on the line. When we're doing conflict resolution, there's a lot on the line. And I think that's probably a little bit about what brings in the stakes for people, that if I fail, I'm done for, right? So I think that it's a hard dance. It feels like, we're playing more of a Russian roulette than baseball, right? With baseball, you can strike out a few times, you can learn, you can have a bad slump, but man, feels like a lot of times it's like we're done for if we mess this up.
And even if that's not communicated, somebody can internalize that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because this performance, and again, back to like this performance-based striving culture. Yeah. Like, I don't even know how do you can't do the work for somebody else, but as a leader, I guess it's just constant communication is the result the end game? Is the process the thing you're trying to build? People they do have decisions to make, and some places are just, I have a friend of mine who's CEO of a publicly traded company. He's like, I want to do the right thing, but I can't do the right thing by people. Yeah. Because I have to let go of a bunch of people because I had to hit a number. Right. It's just hard to have find that balance between, as I said, treating the people well and not having the outcome.
Well, I think this is one of the things that would be curious, like, what would it look like to bring back apprenticeships, right? What would that be like to make a world where, so my dad at NASA was in the apprenticeship program. He's one of the last engineers that went all the way through the apprentice program. And he would have made it otherwise, right? It was, he was a smart man, but he just didn't perform well in school. So that was a really important part for him, is like going through and learning under a person. So, we do it in therapy world. Like, we have what's called an associateship, right? Where I supervise someone and watch them do therapy. And, sometimes they don't do the best therapy, but we work on it. We try and get better together, right? So I don't know. It's a good question that you're asking around, like, how to deal with it.
It would seem like that's I always say that's probably a big nugget right there, especially in service-based industries. There's so many places you go into where the person's not even making eye contact with you. Yeah. They're looking down. And I think that's a lot down to mentorship. right? And also, I think it kind of starts at home, right? I mean, it starts with please and thank you. Like the kids get used to it. They're, parents showing them what to do, how to behave, how to interact, how to spend money, how to resolve conflict. I mean, it's a full-time gig.
Come on.
Full-time gig. But it feels like, also when you say that, I'm like, I love that. And I think I've always tried to provide that, environment and that process.
Yeah.
But I think with the world now of AI, where we have instant answers, so it doesn't mean anybody knows anything or has learned anything. Where are you going to find? I mean, I know, and again, just bouncing around here a bit on topics, but like I know AI, what I understand is I think it's used in your world more than anything, right?
Yeah. I heard something the other day where like the number one usage for AI is for therapy.
That's what I heard. I heard that. Maybe you told me that.
Did I tell you that?
Maybe you did.
Maybe.
See, I'm listening.
Wow.
So what do you think about that?
I mean, AI is trained to be with you, right? So AI, the way AI keeps going is to take care of their user. So most of the time when people use AI is taking care of them, right? So they're not actually learning and growing. I think we learn a lot more in the pit, right? And the despair, these like horrible black moments of life where like nothing's happening right. We learn way more there. But AI doesn't, to me, it just doesn't really hit that place of like really training a person up. It has a lot of information. Yeah. The thing that my mentor's been really pushing me on is that when it comes to good, effective therapy, the best therapy should be 80% practice, 20% insight. And I think what happens with AI is it's all insight based. Mm-hmm. So it gives you lots of knowledge, but that knowledge doesn't really help.
So transitioning into the business world,
yeah,
it makes sense for apprenticeship and mentorship. It's like, if you're out there and you're looking for an answer and I want to be the best at this job in this company. Yeah. That's great. You might get some good theory. Mm-hmm. You might get some bad stuff.
Right.
And to verify that with your mentor and check it also with whoever your boss is, just say, does this seem like it fits here in this organization?
Right.
Yeah. I as you're saying it, it's like, that seems like a good combination. It's a good combination of like, you're not going to stop it. It's not, it's here. Oh, yeah. It's going to get faster.
Oh, come on. Yeah.
But I think it's that trust and verify. And then is this practical? Is this real?
Yes.
Does it apply?
Yeah. AI is not really trustworthy. It is not that helpful. It will give you bad data throughout. So I would never recommend using it to run your company or anything like that. It's a nice like research tool, but I don't know. It's not there yet for me.
You see doctors, right? Doctors get frustrated now if people come in and
oh my Lord.
And somebody's like, well, I Googled this morning. Yeah. So how do you deal with that when somebody comes in with,
oh yeah, how ChatGPT.
I'm already ready to go.
I put my fight all the way through ChatGPT and it told me exactly why I'm right. Curious. Why didn't it tell you that you were wrong? Because all I hear is that you acting wrong. This is another way of you trying to control, right? You trying to blame, and you're getting people to come alongside you that have to come alongside you. You got your yes men, right?
So back to what you started with, blame and shame. If I'm a blamer, am I just expanding my blame game?
Oh man!
And if I'm a shamer, am I just shaming? Am I making myself feel worse about the world?
I don't know. AI might actually help you feel a little bit better personally. That is something that it can actually help in that space of, they're actually putting in a lot of stops around suicide and stuff like that. But man,
that's scary stuff.
I think you're better. So the thing that's going to make me feel better is leaning in with another person, talking to them, getting to know them, and finding myself in that space.
Yeah, for sure. Have you noticed any generational differences?
Yeah.
Or it's something that's, in the last few years, you're like, oh, that's different.
Yeah, tell me what's coming to your mind when you're asking this question, because I'm curious.
I think it's just,
I'm curious about the curious. I'm the curious CEO.
Well,
guy.
I think it's this, my generation was you get in and you grind it out and you're going to be discovered. Well, in Ireland anyway, that was, how I was raised, which was going to go in, work it out. Then I've had this conversation where people come in and they want to know on the second day, what's my career path here? Mm-hmm. Like, what's your career path? You just got here yesterday.
Yeah.
Like we don't even know each other.
Right.
And your career path is this. How about you do this today and see how we do the next day? But then it's very easy to become the old codger looking at the young folks going, you've got to get in there, where at the same time as I've seen younger people who they're asking that question because they want a vision.
Right.
And I also think in some ways it's healthy because they want to advocate for themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I wish I'd have learned how to do that a little bit more to value myself and advocate. But there's a fine line between advocating for yourself and feeling entitled.
Yes. Yeah. That's the thing I was curious about is I was talking to a buddy the other day about this whole principle around the way that this new generation, it feels like sometimes like we're a machine and that we're being treated like a machine, right? Where there's these high expectations in around how I'm supposed to serve you, right? Which, I think as a, CEO, it's great to have a service mentality, but it's this lack of like how we work together and what do I get out of this type stuff and without good follow through. So I don't know what happened.
Is entitlement an entitled mindset? Is that, can you fix that? Can you cure that? Can you?
Yeah.
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 What are good ways to?
I think the thing that helps with entitlement is the things that we really need is to really have a good understanding of who we really are. Entitlement says, I deserve this, that, and the other, right? That's the big thing I run into with people that are like big entitled, like I deserve this, that, and the other, The thing that I find that helps a person that struggles there is to give them to ask them how they came about that place, At what point did you realize you deserve this? They're generally struggling from this place of feeling unfair, right? And the sooner we can help them find some ability to deal with that sense of how things feel unfair, it gets better. There's like 3 typical ways to get out of there, but yeah, that I would lean into.
As you're saying that, I think some of the best interactions or some of the most difficult situations I've had they're always with people.
Oh,
right?
Really?
Yeah. And I'm probably a big part of it, right? But when I've been in a good spot and I've been curious to ask some questions, at least it can identify a problem where I can say, okay, Lance, what I'm hearing you saying is I'm probably not being as clear as you need me to be. You need me to do X, Y, and Z. So I'm going to do that. But I need you to do this. I need you to own that. That sounds like a good partnership, or at least a place to meet in the middle to see if there is a willingness to actually now go and do the work.
Right.
And even if it is in 90 days, that says, look, you're here and I care enough about you. I want to see you do well. I want to see you succeed. And we got to come up with a different plan than what's happening right now.
Yeah.
So here's what you can count on from me. And can I count on this from you?
Yeah. So when you say that, Dermot, how do you feel?
Well, I feel like I'm serving the person in an honest, meaningful way. And also, if my kids encountered that in a company, I would be pleased.
Yeah.
Like I always wanted to be a kind of a leader that if your kids worked at the company, a Buffinian company, that you'd be, hey, I'm glad they're there.
Yeah.
They're going to get trained. They're going to get compensated.
Right.
But they're also going to get consequences. And it's not going to leave there going, well, I don't know. I don't know what happened. Yeah. And I can also see how there's times when I miss that. Just because of speed or missing the person or just sometimes getting caught up in your own stuff that you don't check back in, and now somebody's disappeared and you're like, but again, it's what you're saying earlier. It's like taking ownership of the process.
Isn't that the differentiator, above the line? I can come in with you and I can talk to you. We can talk about expectations and I'm going to own my own part of how I'm going to come in. Versus all those things you just named, that's all below the line stuff, right?
It is. What does it look like when somebody's moved? What are the things that you notice when somebody's living and working above the line?
Oh, man.
What are the changes or what are the signs that you see?
Yeah, I find that one of the biggest things that happens for people is they're present. They're with you. They're not over here, this, that, the other. They're with you. They're very present. I find that they're also able to delegate, right? They're willing to embrace a little bit of risk to delegate to other people. I find that they have some self-confidence, right? Some self-esteem, not over the top self-esteem, but that regulated self-confidence.
Certitude.
Like,
yeah.
I know who I am. Yeah. And then finally, instead of blaming and pushing against people, they end up being very kind. It's really funny. Some of the meanest people out there, they can be some of the kindest souls if you just give them a little bit of a chance to shift.
Yeah. It's funny when you say that. I was listening to, I don't know, some talk guy was talking about a lady who he worked with, and she was a real go-getter, and she didn't take any prisoners, and these, and I think she had a Mercedes on her broomstick. That's how she was perceived as the wicked witch of the West in the office. And they asked her, kind of like, on lunch or something, what is the gift that maybe her dad gave her or mentors gave her, the thing that she's responded the most? She said gentleness. And they were like, what? You? Of all people. So I think that's the thing. It's so easy. And I'm guilty as the next person of making a quick judgment. And not that there's not something in that, but I like the whole, what you say is like, just dig in a little bit to get to know the person and see maybe they need the opposite of what they're getting.
Come on. Yeah. I think that's that shift that makes the biggest difference.
Yeah. Well, it's good stuff. We've been talking about above the line, below the line. That's kind of my flow, my jam, my framework when I'm trying to work in. Yeah. But in your world, you have what they call a peace and pain cycle.
Yeah.
Can you describe what that is?
This whole idea around therapy and what I do is that people are good naturally, right? Like naturally people are good. But the big thing that we believe in restoration therapy is that we have to learn how to be emotionally regulated. And that's what I think you're really pointing out with above the line and below the line. And there's a few things that really help us to shift into emotional regulation. One is to know when we're emotionally dysregulated. That's why we have this thing called the pain cycle, right? The pain cycle looks at what are you feeling inside, right? Generally, it's not a lot of different things, right? It's generally this realm of we're feeling a sense of unloved or unsafe, and you can add in a whole bunch of other words around that. But that's generally what people are struggling with, is somewhere in that realm. So with unloved, it could be like a failure. They can feel like they're not good enough. They can feel like they're unwanted. Those are things around unloved. And with safety, it's generally around this idea of like things feel unpredictable, things feel unfair, or things feel like unknown, right? So we're reacting from that place. And that's where the reactions come out,
And so let's say I'm running a meeting, right? And I got like 10 people in the meeting, and we're trying to work through a project, and we're trying to get clarity on something. But you got some in peace and some in pain, and some who are the dominant, they want to take control. And then you got the people who are just like, oh, I'm just going to sit back and watch because I know Charlie's just going to go off on one here. Yeah. As a leader, how can we, I don't know what to use the word control, but how can we influence that room to let everybody be heard, but also recognize when this is taking place?
Well, I think one thing that what you're developing here is a really good language, right? To recognize, like, hey, in my team, when people are off, we would name like, oh man, I feel like I'm in my pain cycle right now. Like I am off, I'm not regulated, and I'm not doing well right now, right? And that's not this way to get off the hook, right? No, if you're in your pain cycle, then you have to take responsibility for your feelings, right? So what we would have people do is go through what we call the 4 steps, right? And the 4 steps is this. Step 1 is you say what you feel. That sense of unloved, unsafe, name one of those feelings that's being triggered in the moment, right? Step 2 is you say what you normally do. Man, just getting that far makes it super awkward in the room. If you say, well, I feel unloved, and what I normally do is I get really angry, right? So if you get really angry in the room, things are going to get a little awkward, right? So just by saying that in a group of people makes a big difference. But we're trying to go somewhere, right? So the next step is to say the truth, right? Of that feeling that you're dealing with, So I feel unloved. The truth is, I know I'm a good man. I know that I am lovable, right? And when you lean into that truth, what do you do instead, right? I can be kind. I can listen. I can slow down. I can just be myself, right? I don't have to put on this song and dance. That's one of the big things. It's a mindfulness technique that we use. The mindfulness technique really helps to rewrite the neural pathway in people's brains, because what we know is that when you say it aloud, right? It tickles all those little parts of your brain that goes out your mouth, and through your ear, and all those parts are getting tickled, right? And then you're starting to lean towards health and healing. And when you do it in a community and you're working together in this community, it can make a big difference, right?
So if I'm the leader in the room, right? And some people are going to be overshares, some people are undershares. So what I'm hearing is, as a leader, my job is to create the environment to say, I want to hear what you really feel about this.
Yeah.
Whether you tell me in person or you tell me in public, let's dig into maybe it's somebody who's like, hey, I feel like I worked hard on that project and nobody even recognized it. Mm-hmm. Or I talked to somebody the other day, he worked on a project for like 48 hours, like almost nonstop. And then he came in and delivered it and his boss just went, yeah, we're not going to use it now.
Yeah.
And never communicated. And so he felt very unappreciated.
Yeah.
Feel like he just busted his backside for something that ultimately didn't matter because it wasn't thought through.
Right.
So what I'm hearing is create the environment as a leader for people to really tell you how you feel. One of the ways we can do that too is we go first.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's going first and recognizing like this isn't airing grievances moment time of like, I feel unappreciated. I feel unloved.
Right.
I feel like, this is like, going back to Seinfeld, your moment of airing your grievances, right?
Yeah, no, we don't want that.
What is it? Festivus for the rest of us? Yeah. We don't want that, but it's learning to, it's being able to say the feeling that's going on inside and regulating it in front of your people. It's like, I feel unappreciated right now. The truth is, I know I'm doing good work. Mm-hmm. So instead of getting angry with you right now, I can engage in a way that is above the line and caring and like curious, right? Curiosity is one of the big things we lean towards.
Yeah. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I had a group come in one time, which I've talked about, but they came in and they were a team that had a lot of camaraderie. They started a company together. They had great momentum. Two of the guys who started the company were in best friends from high school.
Yeah.
And it was that process of they came in and they were very down. They were very disappointed. You could tell they were out of energy.
Yeah.
And I asked them like what the problems are, and nobody wanted to say anything or what they were trying to achieve. And nobody was able to say anything. But once I asked them what the problems were, they didn't stop talking for about 15 minutes because they just got it all out. Right. But then when I asked them about what's awesome about their leader, like what's great about this guy as a leader, man, they started speaking into his world and I could see him moving out of his pain cycle into not just peace, but like, wow, hold on a sec. These guys, I didn't know they really think this of me. Right. And it was actually cool because I saw them lift the leader up out of the pit.
So good.
It was great. It was a game changer. It was kind of like as amazing to see, but
I mean, that's an amazing thing when you work at a company that can see the beauty of who a person really is and call that out, I think that just changes a lot of things,
Well, I think sometimes I always think it's my little 7-year-old is coming out, and sometimes when I've had more compassion on people is when I've thought about them as like, not this, 55-year-old guy who's burly. It's just like, oh, it sounds like his little 7-year-old is coming out. And if I looked at him that way, I might treat him a little differently.
Yeah. What would you say to that little 7-year-old today?
Well, I think what I'd want to do is encourage them, like what you said, see the good, saying, hey, I know that you're really good at these things. You're doing a great job. You're working really hard. But I think I would really want to find a way to, inspire, motivate, point out the truth. But I wouldn't do it if it wasn't true.
Yeah. But
at the same time I think conversely, when you see somebody acting out, you can do the same thing with the 7-year-old. Say like, that's not acceptable to show up in the meeting that way.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing you say is like, as leaders, we got to create the environment. We got to go first. We got to ask good questions, and then we got to make it constructive.
Yeah.
And comfortable for people just to go, hey, I'm struggling.
Right.
But then move them.
Yeah.
Move them in the direction you want them to go.
To me, I think there's this other big piece that makes a big difference, which is what's our true north, right? What are those things that we actually stand by? Can you name those things, right? Like with my group, it's healing, hope, and freedom, right? So we always lean in harder when we know there's an opportunity for healing, hope, or freedom right here in front of us, right? So that I think that's one of those things that, like, what are your true norths in your company? Like, what are those things that you guys really care about?
We used to talk about it in order of like, hey, we want to impact and improve the lives of people. Like, that's why we're here. That's why we're here to do that work. But then also even just, we want, in order, the customer to win. And then if the customer wins, the company wins. And if the company wins, then I should win. And by the way, we wanted all three. As opposed to, well, I want to win. Well, you won, but the customer didn't. I think the company's gone out of business. I think the customer won and the company won, but you didn't get any benefit from it. You didn't grow. It's like you're out of whack.
Yeah. So it's core principles, I think, really make a big difference in companies. And so it's this, like, where are we headed? And then how can we regulate ourselves to get ourselves headed in that direction? Because sometimes we go below the line and things get jacked up.
There's real power and freedom in people being able to say, I'm not okay. Hey, I'm struggling with that. That didn't feel good.
Yeah. The real bit of people is like, we're going to have a bad day, And to me, the one thing that I've learned in life that's like really changed the way I view people is that I'm going to judge you less about how you fell down and more about how you got back up.
And I think as well, as you're saying that too, it's like you also can't enable an onboard terrorist.
No.
Like, you can't enable somebody who's like going through the motions. They're not interested in it. In fact, they don't even care about people. That's where you've got to make the ruthless choice to say, you don't belong here.
Right. Yeah. And if they're not willing to stick to the true north, or they're not willing to go, like, it seems like you're not committed to healing, hope, or freedom right now. Yeah. Or you're not committed to the customer. You've really found this commitment here. So we have this dividing point that makes sense now that, you're really talented, but you're just not dedicated in this same vein that we are.
No, there's real power in it. It's, great companies and great teams. They're not without conflict.
Yeah.
But they're all with the same common outcome. It's like, we're going to care for each other. We're going to care for the customer. We're going to win. And they're the best teams to be part of.
Yeah. It's a tough call, like toxic people, sometimes they can be purified, right? And it's the best story, right? When someone actually changes.
Turns it around.
Right? That's what I do my work for. It's like, I believe that people can change, So let's just help them.
For 90 days anyway.
Come on. I was going to give him 7 years.
No, that was longer timeline. Before we go, any little tips you can give us to kind of help manage our stresses? And, maybe that's a long question, and maybe that's a whole other podcast, but is there things that we can do to just catch ourselves from going into the below the line?
Yeah. Here's a few thoughts for you today. Viktor Frankl, he is this famous man who survived the Holocaust, right? And when he survived the Holocaust, he wrote this book called Man's Search for Meaning, right? And in the book, he talks about, like, in life, people will do all these horrible things to you, right? They'll take away your dignity, they'll take away your food, they'll take away this, that, and the other, but they can never take away your attitude. Right? He was famous for saying, just because they treat you like dog doesn't mean you have to act like a dog. So inside of every single one of us, inside of each person, is someone that can make a choice to do the right thing, to live above the line, to use this language that when we slow it down to ask, what is that thing that helps me to live above the line? Is it thinking about that mentor, that this person, that you're talking about, the Wicked Witch of the West? She thinks about that person, right? Yeah. And instantly this like mean demeanor, switches to this soft expression, right. Is it, just taking care of yourself a little bit more, of, finding that activity that helps you to vibe and flow. What is that thing that puts you in the right place so that you can be the person that you're called to be? That's, to me, at the end of the day, I believe that everybody is good. I don't like that. We all have a potential to be good, awesome people. That's all we got to do is to help them to find that goodness.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I also think that, one of the things is I've talked about it at the events when I talk about the above the line, below the line, I talk about my above the line people. Yeah. And to find those above the line people who you're surrounded by. Yeah. You've got below the line people too. Oh yeah. And you really got to get away from them.
Get those nuggets out of the way.
That's right. But the above the line people, they call you to they see the good in you.
Yeah.
They see the possibility. they generally tell a story where you're going to connect through their story. The fact that I remember when I was in your spot and this is what I did and here's how I turned it around. But that's one of the things I've advocated for. I'm always advocating people, especially younger people. It's like, find your mentors, find your above the line people, do the work. We're all making mistakes. We're all learning.
Yeah.
But I like that about the attitude. And also I'm very thankful that you've been an above the line man for me. And you've helped me in every area of my life. And I'm beyond grateful for it. And I'm super grateful that you took the time to be with us here today.
Yeah. Next time in Ireland, right?
Let's do it. Cheers.